Have you ever wondered how a world full of suffering can exist if there's a perfect, all-powerful God? It's a huge question, a profound philosophical puzzle that has kept people up at night for centuries. Well, today, we're going to dive right into it, breaking down the classic critique and exploring a really fascinating resolution.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by framing the paradox. Then, we'll walk through the logical critique against it. After that, we're going to reframe the whole problem, which leads us to the Quranic resolution and a more holistic way of seeing things.
Okay, first up, a perfect paradox. Before we get into the logic, we need to feel the weight of this question. Because, this isn't just some abstract brain teaser. It's a real, deeply felt tension between what we believe and what we see every day.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's this powerful, ancient dilemma. On one side, you've got the concept of a perfect, all-knowing, all-loving God. And on the other, well, you have reality. You have pain, injustice, and suffering. So the question that just hangs in the air is, how can both of these things possibly be true at the same time?
So let's shift gears and look at how that emotional tension gets turned into a cold, hard, logical argument. This is often called the problem of evil, and it tries to show that this isn't just a mystery, it's an outright contradiction. The classic argument goes something like this. You start with three basic premises. God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly good. Simple enough, right? But then you hit the fourth point. Evil exists. The critique says, hold on. If those first three things are true, the fourth one should be impossible. A good God would want to prevent evil, a knowing God would know how to, and a powerful God would be able to. So the fact that evil is here must mean one of those first three ideas about God has to be wrong.
And the critique doesn't stop there. It also comes for the very idea of being all-powerful, or omnipotent, with this classic mind-bending question. It's a logic puzzle designed to show that the whole concept just doesn't make sense. You see what's happening here? It's a logical trap, a real catch-22. If you say, yes, he can create the stone, well, then there's something he can't do, lift it, so he's not all-powerful. But if you say, no, he can't create the stone, then again, there's something he can't do. Either way you answer, you're cornered. It feels like a pretty airtight argument.
So, is that it? Is it a logical dead end? Well, not so fast. The theological response basically says, hang on, what if the problem isn't with the answer, but with the question itself? What if we're starting from a completely flawed assumption?
And this is where the reframing begins. The argument is that we're making a mistake by treating God's attributes like they're separate things. It's like we've spilled a bag of gems onto the floor. We pick up the power gem, then we pick up the mercy gem, we look at them under our little human microscope, and then we're shocked when they don't seem to fit together perfectly.
I mean, the whole critique really boils down to a simple formula. You take infinite power, you add infinite mercy, and you expect a world with zero suffering. But when you look around, the math just doesn't seem to add up. The equation looks broken.
This brings us to the Quranic resolution, and what's fascinating is that it doesn't try to just solve that broken equation. Instead, it redefines the very terms we're using, starting with a really deep concept called divine simplicity. Okay, divine simplicity might sound complex, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. It means God isn't made of different parts. He's not a machine with a power component, a mercy component, and so on. Instead, his power is his knowledge, which is his mercy. They're not separate ingredients in a recipe. They are all just different ways our human minds try to describe one single, indivisible, unified reality. You can't have a contradiction between parts that don't exist as parts in the first place.
And here is the game changer for the problem of evil. The Quranic framework says, your equation was missing a key variable. It adds divine wisdom, al-Hakim, the all-wise, into the mix. Suddenly, the whole thing looks different. Maybe suffering isn't a failure of power or mercy. Maybe, just maybe, it serves some purpose within an infinite wisdom that we, from our tiny vantage point, just can't possibly grasp.
So what about that whole heavy stone paradox? Well, this approach handles it pretty neatly. It clarifies that being all-powerful means being able to do anything that is logically possible. A stone God cannot lift is a logical contradiction. It's a string of words that doesn't actually describe a real thing any more than a square circle does. Asking God to make one isn't a test of power. It's just asking for nonsense. And there's another crucial distinction. This framework draws a hard line when it comes to evil caused by human beings. The suffering that comes from cruelty, from greed, from injustice, that's attributed to our own free will and our own accountability.
It separates that kind of moral evil from, say, a natural disaster.
All right, so let's zoom out and see how all of this comes together. The point here isn't just to find clever answers to logical puzzles. It's to paint a completely different, more holistic picture of reality. So instead of getting hung up on just 2 or 3 attributes, the Quran presents us with this whole symphony of what it calls the best names. You don't just have the merciful, you also have the all-wise, the just, the all-powerful, the creator. You have to hear them all together. One note on its own doesn't give you the music.
And that really is the perfect metaphor. We're moving away from that image of cold, separate gems on the floor. Instead, we get this idea of an interconnected, harmonious whole, where every attribute, every name, gives meaning and context to all the others. So, if there's one key thing to take away from all of this, it's the shift in perspective. The Quranic resolution isn't really about solving the puzzle. It's about suggesting that the puzzle only exists because we're the ones who broke reality down into little, manageable, human-sized pieces in the first place.
And that leaves us with a final thought, a question for you to chew on. When you're faced with a big, seemingly impossible contradiction in your own life, is the answer going to be a new piece of information that finally makes it all click? Or is the real solution found by taking a step back and changing your entire perspective?